All right. Hello, government leaders. Welcome to today's webinar, Empowering Cyber Best Practices and Policy Through Collaborative Insights, a Cybersecurity for Government Leaders case study series. Building upon the foundation laid during our Cybersecurity for Government Leaders training, we're thrilled to be here with you today to spotlight the remarkable work undertaken by the great state of South Carolina. These webinars are designed with a clear mission to cultivate a spirit of collaboration and knowledge sharing among government officials in the hopes of raising our overall cyber defenses across the country. By providing a platform to spotlight the exceptional achievements and endeavors of government entities in the realm of cybersecurity best practices and policy, our goal is to foster substantive dialogues. So at any time during this presentation, if you have a question, please drop it in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we will do our best to get those answered. Now, as we dive into the realm of cybersecurity, it becomes abundantly clear that you, as government leaders, hold a pivotal role in our collective security. You, as a government leader, are the architects of the policies and practices that safeguard our digital landscapes. You, as government leaders, shape the very foundations of cybersecurity, charting a course that protects critical infrastructure, sensitive data, and ultimately the well-being of our communities, big and small. We believe collaboration lies at the heart of effective cybersecurity. The challenges we face in the digital age are complex, evolving, and at times overwhelming. No single entity, no matter how well resourced, can tackle these challenges in isolation. It is in our coming together, our shared experiences, and our combined expertise that we find strength. Collaboration amplifies our capacity to address the multifaceted threats that target our state and local governments today. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from Tom Scott, whose experiences and insights underscore the very essence of this collaborative spirit. Tom Scott is the Executive Director of the South Carolina Cybersecurity Association and Foundation. As the inaugural director of the South Carolina Cyber Consortium, he has been a key leader in the cybersecurity education, cyber workforce development, and cyber protection efforts in both South Carolina and across the nation. He is the CEO of Cyber Sherpas, a premier cybersecurity consulting firm. With over 30 years of cybersecurity experience in both Florida and South Carolina, Tom has developed a wealth of knowledge and experience in protecting critical infrastructure and cyber assets. He currently holds certifications in information security, information auditing, security leadership, critical infrastructure protection, and project management. He is also recognized as a FEMA Continuity of Operations Planning practitioner. Tom is a member of the FBI's InfraGuard program and serves as an advisory board member for the Dutch Fork High School Cyber Program. He has actively participated as a member of the MS-ISAC's Executive Committee, as well as the USC School of Law Cybersecurity Task Force. Tom currently serves the academic community through board service to the Industry Advisory Board for the USC Integrated IT Program and at Florence Darlington Tech and Aiken Tech. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mr. Tom Scott, who brings a wealth of knowledge and a commitment to sharing his experiences and lessons learned. Mr. Scott's contributions have not only strengthened the cybersecurity posture of South Carolina, but also serve as an inspiration to government leaders nationwide. Tom, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for everyone's time today. Hopefully we're going to spend a few minutes sharing information about how we've moved and evolved in cybersecurity here within the state of South Carolina. So I'm going to go ahead and pause a second. I'm going to share a screen. And everyone should be seeing the screen with the pretty cool little palmetto on it. What I'll share with everyone is I used a little bit of artificial intelligence and AI in putting the presentation together. It's most certainly, this is not a presentation on AI. There are hundreds and thousands of those going on right now, probably simultaneously. But I wanted to share with everyone that the image on the right of the Palmetto and the phone mobile device was actually generated by AI, with simply the prompt of evolution of cybersecurity within South Carolina. So this is my me slide. I think Jonah did a pretty good job of sharing with you guys my bio. My colleague calls this affectionately my NASCAR resume. A variety of organizations I've been involved in, both in the state of Florida and state of South Carolina, as well as opportunities to participate through groups like the MS-ISAC on a national basis. So evolution, let's talk, pre-year 2000. Here in the state of South Carolina, along with many other states, state government, local government, even private industry, had a limited awareness of cybersecurity, unless you were in the military or you worked at NASA or a national lab. Cybersecurity was not in the forefront of discussions. It wasn't part of the daily lexicon. Most organizations were going through the basics. They had an understanding of needs to protect their network. At that time, the perimeter tended to be the perimeter of the building, and doing things like basic cybersecurity, firewalls, antivirus, were all part of what everyone was doing, whether that was private sector or within government. Once we experienced both Y2K and 9/11 in the early years of this new millennium, we saw an increased awareness of the threats and the vulnerabilities that were out there. We saw a need to collaborate. The bad guys were sharing information, and so the good guys needed to do the same. Out of New York became an organization, the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, coordinating information across the state, local, tribal, territorial organizations across the country. And there were even state-based information sharing and analysis centers. Here in South Carolina, we created one called the SC-ISAC. Nationally, around that time, we started seeing a rise in proliferation of new regulatory changes, whether they were healthcare related, tied back to HIPAA, whether they were financial related, tied back to things like Gramm-Leach-Bliley or Sarbanes-Oxley. We started seeing more and more of those frameworks coming out. And to the point where, now words like NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, became part of a daily lexicon. The understanding of the NIST 800 publication series was now being expanded beyond just the security teams, but to the infrastructure teams and beyond. Once we reached the early 2010s, we started to see different maturity issues and challenges. Here within the state of South Carolina, our Budget and Control Board created a division of state information technology. It was an idea, and the goal was to centralize IT services and help improve cybersecurity across state agencies. And despite the fact that our state CIO at the time was named Jimmy Early, South Carolina has never been known for being an early adopter state. And so while many other states in the early 2000s were looking at data center consolidation and other ways of creating federated type models, South Carolina began that journey in the early 2010s. And then what happened, as described by South Carolina's Post and Courier, was the mother of all data breaches. So back in 2012, our Department of Revenue suffered what was at that time one of the largest hacks of any organization, where a hacker supposedly in Russia somewhere. It's still an active investigation. Still millions of taxpayer records, not just individuals, but of businesses as well. That incident kicked off a lot of activity. On a personal note, I was actually interviewed as the Chief Information Security Officer at the Department of Revenue approximately 6 months prior to that position. Ultimately decided not to take the position, which I think perhaps boded well on certain career fronts there. But it was a wake-up call. I've defined and described it that in 2001, President George Bush came into office, and 9 months later in 9/11, there was an event that largely helped define his presidency. And same thing I think happened with Governor Haley. There was a lot of consternation about standards and policies and compliance. And as we continue to move forward, the state took a lot of action. South Carolina's Department of Administration stood up a Division of Information Security in 2013, 2014, after a Inspector General's analysis of the breach and a Deloitte roadmap. Our state law enforcement division, SLED, stood up a cybersecurity task force in 2016, largely looking at critical infrastructure and some of the gaps that were there between National Guard, State Guard, state law enforcement, Homeland Security, state government, etc. They have continued to be the leader across all of state government. And in 2019, I believe, stood up the South Carolina Critical Infrastructure and Cybersecurity Program. That is an incredible asset for the state. I have, in working in the private sector, been a member of the SC KIC program and been a recipient of their services. The little graphic on the right-hand side of the screen will share with you some of the things that they do for critical infrastructure and government across the state. In 2017, our South Carolina National Guard was one of just a handful of states that were able to secure a cyber battalion. We were able to kick off the 125th Cyber Battalion. I will share with you guys that right now they are currently deployed. They're working right now in Oman and Djibouti, providing a variety of training to some of our foreign allies. And then lastly, I think it's key to share with everyone, our South Carolina Department of Insurance was the very first one in the nation to adopt a national insurance data security model. And kudos to our leader at the time for Department of Administration. In the late 2010s, not only did we see a significant level of governmental effort, but we started to see a contributing in a parallel effort from the private sector within the Palmetto State. Our private universities and colleges began expanding their cybersecurity programs as they're working on workforce development and creating the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. Our state public universities and the state technical college system have also done an amazing job to try and address workforce demands through statewide programs like Apprentice Carolina and Ready SC. We've seen groups like NIWIC or SPAWAR in the Charleston area partner with AFCEA, the Air Force Communications and Education Association, to host events like the PCDC, Palmetto Cyber Defense Competition. That's a fantastic event held every April in Charleston. Variety of competitions, drive to that statewide final, if you will. Saturday, Sunday, Monday competition. Saturday high school, Sunday is college, and Monday is pro days. And then again, as we're talking about cybersecurity competitions, I would be remiss if I didn't point out the Cyber Patriot level of effort. And I believe they're also a Cyber Patriot Center of Excellence down in the Fort Gordon, Fort Eisenhower Cyber District. They do a pretty amazing job on our side of the river in South Carolina, in North Augusta, and on the Georgia side of the river in that entire Augusta region. And then something I'm particularly proud of, in 2016 through 2018, I helped lead a cybersecurity consortium from the University of South Carolina, and was able to take some of that momentum and the efforts that we had created and launched the South Carolina Cybersecurity Association. We partnered with Cyber SC and became, we partnered with Cyber USA and became the South Carolina's affiliate within their community of communities across the country, along with Cyber Maryland, Cyber Wyoming, Cyber Hawaii, and again, a host of other communities. We've been able to leverage that into creating a variety of activities, events, trainings, conferences across the state to help increase and drive the cyber conversation. So let's get current. When we take a look at some of the cybersecurity advancements that have happened, I'll call it since the pandemic, probably the two that are most important to highlight. The first was a cybersecurity ecosystem study that was put out together, developed in conjunction with the South Carolina Office of the Governor, University of South Carolina, and our South Carolina's Department of Commerce. That cyber ecosystem study identified that we have far to go if South Carolina wants to be in the upper echelon of states. It was a comparative study, took a look at 6 states across the Southeast: South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Florida, and Alabama, and identified areas of improvement that then led to the governor's executive order that came out in September 2022. In that order, Governor charged the South Carolina Department of Commerce with coordinating and direct implementation of a statewide initiative to strengthen South Carolina's cybersecurity ecosystem by increasing collaboration, cooperation, and communication among key stakeholders. That effort is currently ongoing. We are highly looking forward, anticipating the results of that in December, as the Department of Commerce is putting together a statewide plan. I would also, again, be remiss if I didn't also call out several key items that have happened in the last couple of years. Number one, the Citadel did a fantastic job down in the Charleston area of coordinating with West Point and putting on something called Operation Jack Voltaic. It was a cyber exercise that worked with the port system, taking a scenario, looking at having to export war materials through the port of Charleston to the Middle East. Interestingly enough, on the day of the conference at the Citadel was the same day that Russia attacked Ukraine. And so while we may not have been actually sitting in the war room, we were definitely sitting with some of the players who were going to be sitting in those war rooms as the United States and our military took a look at what the implications were of that conflict in Ukraine. The University of Clemson recently got a national grant to take a look at automotive cybersecurity, and that is in conjunction with their ICAR Institute. Again, very impressive work that we're being seen, that we are seeing across the state. And then lastly, I'll share with everyone another group out of the Greenville area, the Carolina Crescent Initiative, is taking a look at additional ways to address some of our cyber and our workforce deficiency issues. So now let's take a look at the future. What's the next 5 years take a look is going to look like? I think we're going to continue to see increasing investments, some of that being driven on a federal level. There is currently federal cybersecurity grants and application processes that are open through a 4-year, $100 million funding opportunity. That's also extended to grants out to tribal nations. Here in the state of South Carolina, we host the Catawba Nation within our contiguous border. And they've done some very interesting things, including creating a digital special economic zone. They call it the Green Earth Zone, as another opportunity to look at economic development in our digital world. We've seen some improvements in our incident response capabilities, coordination and collaboration efforts between State Guard, National Guard, and state government. And we've seen an increase in the amount of federal assistance that we've seen. Anthony Carboni and C.L. Clay are our two cyber CISA state advisors, working across the entirety of South Carolina, from Rock Hill up in south of Charlotte down to Aiken and Augusta, from the western parts of the state of Greenville, Spartanburg, all the way to the coast of Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and Beaufort. And we've seen the Beaufort area expand and truly embrace cyber and economic opportunity. They've recently gotten some maritime cybersecurity grants, and the South Coast Cyber Group, comprised of private sector, tech corridor groups, University of South Carolina, Beaufort, Technical College of the Lowcountry, are all doing some pretty amazing things in their collaborative efforts. So we've got some pretty impressive, what I would call, pockets of greatness across the state. In the Charleston area, we focus heavily on maritime and port security, cybersecurity, as well as supporting the military and defense industrial base in the Charleston area. Up in Greenville, we focus heavily on manufacturing and the burgeoning technology groups that we're seeing, especially across the state in manufacturing and in electrical vehicles and electrical vehicle batteries and power. Believe it or not, Myrtle Beach, while it is an incredible tourist destination, is gaining a growing reputation for technology. I know next spring or next August, they will be hosting an international software as a service conference called SaaSCon. So again, lots of good things happening across the state. Here in the capital, we're seeing increased collaboration, increased cooperation amongst governmental entities, as well as the insurance industry, which has a strong foothold here in the Midlands of South Carolina. So we are a manufacturing state. We just last week had the governor at the South Carolina Manufacturing Alliance proclaim Manufacturing Day and Manufacturing Month. It is a key driver in our economy, along with the tourism from the beaches. We've got a strong federal and military presence between Fort Jackson, Fort Eisenhower, just south of the border, the Savannah River National Laboratory and Shaw Air Force Base, amongst others. Again, what we really see is, again, what I'm calling pockets of greatness across the state, including innovative and creative programs coming out of government. Our Department of Employment and Workforce recently hosted an award-winning cyber internship program to, if you will, eat their own dog food and be able to help address the cyber workforce issues within the state. And then again, as we talk about incident response capabilities, the partnerships that we've seen and the efforts between State Guard, National Guard, and state government and Homeland Security have been pretty incredible with their working together. So I will wrap up the presentation here with a final slide, and we can go back to Jonah for any further discussion or questions. If you remember at the beginning, I mentioned that the cool little palmetto on the mobile device was created using AI, as was the picture here on the left that looks like it's actually of the South Carolina State House. I don't think the steps are the same. I think that's where it's slightly different. But when I asked it to create the images I used for the very first one, interestingly enough, it created 4 images, and this was one of them. So as we take a look at evolution of cybersecurity in South Carolina, I think we're going to continue to see both in our governmental sector and our private sector an expansion of the workforce, where we're starting to look at a more diverse workforce, not only in terms of race and gender, et cetera, but a diverse workforce in terms of skill sets as well. And so kudos to our state government, our Department of Commerce, for the work efforts that they're doing to address the cyber ecosystem across the state, to our state law enforcement division for working to coordinate and better protect South Carolinians and our critical infrastructure, and groups like Department of Employment and Workforce, DEW, for working to address the cybersecurity workforce deficit. And I would be most certainly remiss to point out that while the Department of Revenue breach in 2012 was an impetus and a kick in the backside, if you will, towards South Carolina's evolution, I consider the Department of Revenue the bellwether and the organization that sets the standard the highest across all state agencies in South Carolina, and the one to try and emulate. So with that, Jonah, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to be ready for you to come back on camera, and I'm going to be ready to go onto mute here until we get any questions from any of our respondents.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. Once again, Tom, I extend my thanks for your expertise and time here today. South Carolina serves as a remarkable example of best practices, offering a wealth of invaluable insights for our audience. Your presentation has undeniably enriched our knowledge base, and I am confident that our attendees have derived tremendous value from the information you've shared. One last note before we close today, please be sure to mark your calendars for our upcoming session, the second installment of this series scheduled for November 16th. We are excited to announce that our distinguished guest will be Senator Katie Frey-Hester from the state of Maryland. Your continued participation is eagerly anticipated as we continue to dig into effective cyber practices and policies. All right, as we bring today's session to a close, we wish to express our sincerest gratitude for your participation. Until we reconvene, stay safe, stay informed, and keep the spirit of collaboration alive. We are all in this together. Thank you once again.